Hi, my name's John. I live in Churchill, and one of the things that we're really keen to be involved with is solar. So we have a house here in Churchill, which is slowly being converted to an all-electric house, and so we decided back in July last year to do a bit of shopping around to find out about solar batteries and installations for our house, because we knew the better rebates were sort of coming to an end, and that there were some new rebates coming out to support people to get onto solar. And we thought we'd go with one of the more talked about and reliable companies, this one being RACV Solar, which used to be Gippsland Solar, and I had some dealings with them in the past and they were reasonably good. But now, unfortunately, what we're seeing is a bit of a turnaround in the way they handle their situations. And so anyway, September last year, we paid a deposit because the new Tesla Wall 3 had come out, and RACV were heavily advertising this one. So we thought, oh yeah, we'll get one of those. So we paid all the deposit and everything like that, looking for the quote to come up on our emails so that we could then apply for the various grants that were available, and it never arrived. And so I thought, well, I'll give it a fortnight or so, and nothing happened. Didn't hear from RACV. And finally I contacted RACV and said, look, the quote hasn't come through. I've attempted to get onto the various websites and couldn't find anything about the quote, so that I can't apply for the grant. And they said, oh, sorry, Mr. Ernst. Yeah, the Tesla Wall 3 hasn't actually been approved for your area. So we will, have to revisit that and see if you could use a different system. So which sort of put me back a bit, because I actually had to contact them. They didn't contact me. And anyway, waited around, and finally they sent another quote through, and they quoted me on a different battery system, which was more expensive, which we then agreed to, because that was the only way we could move forward with the whole deal. So, long and the short of it, they got several $1,000s out of me as a deposit back in September, and then we were able to apply for the rebates. That took some time because of their delays. So finally, by the end of January 2025, so we paid the deposit in September, but it wasn't until the end of January 2025 that we could finally say, or that we finally got notification that all the grants had been approved. Well, end of January, and no correspondence from RACV Solar. Despite me sending several emails, ringing them, trying to work out what was going on, and finally, after some very serious threats about, withdrawing from the contract and all that sort of stuff, we got some action. And then they said, oh yes, we'll be coming out on the 11th of April to install your system. So if you look behind me here, you'll see the system on the roof. That was in April. But in between, as part of the contract, they were supposed to come out and do a site visit to just check to see what the job entailed. Well, they didn't bother doing that. So when the electricians arrived to hook up our solar, they discovered something amazing, that our house has a fuse on the AusNet power pole out the front, which meant they couldn't finish installing this system. Now that was in the beginning of April this year. So what happened then? Well, what happened then was that RACV Solar finally contacted me and said, well, Mr. Ernst, unfortunately, because the fuse is on the pole, we'll need to make an arrangement with AusNet to come out and disconnect your house so our electricians can actually finish the work and connect you to the grid and to your meter box. And I said, yep, fine. I said, but why didn't you check that between September last year and April this year, so that you could actually coordinate it with AusNet, so that they were here at the same time your electricians were here? No response. No response at all from RACV. Okay, so all this happened at the beginning of April. It is now the beginning of June. And guess what? Absolutely crickets from RACV. But AusNet contacted me and said, well, we've been given this order from RACV. It requires you to pay this extra money. And this was confirmed in a small email by RACV back in April, that we would have to pay again an additional charge. Okay, right, let's get it done. I want this thing installed. Immediately agreed to that. Even though I think they're in breach of contract, immediately agreed to that, because I think they're in breach of contract because in their own contract it says they should have done a site visit to determine the scope of the job. But they didn't, and that's probably a story for another day. Well, anyway, long and the short of it is, it's one day off my birthday, which is the 5th of June. Crickets from RACV, disconnected, nothing connected at all, and we have no idea when this job will be finished. So I've just sent another email to RACV, second in a week. Not had any response to the first one. Hopefully the second one might get some action, because I've now said that I will go to the Ombudsman over this, but hold out little hope. So if you're thinking of getting RACV Solar to do the job in your house, think again. Bye.